Bootsma explains the research at public presentations that attract increasingly large audiences.
Well, let's look at what Cladophora needs to grow and look at the history of those environmental factors and see if we can figure out what has changed over the last 10 to 15 years that may be causing the excess.
The invasion of zebra mussels was a momentous change. They arrived in the late 1980s, hitchhikers in the ballast water of ocean-going ships. Just a few years later, billions of zebra mussels blanketed the rocky bottom of western Lake Michigan. Recently, they've been almost entirely replaced by a close relative called quagga mussels. These newcomers made two profound changes to Lake Michigan. The mussels have dramatically cleared up the water, and they've concentrated the lake's phosphorus near shore where Cladophora grows. These changes provide Cladophora with more light and more nutrients, precisely what it needs to grow faster and more abundantly. Before the invasion, Lake Michigan's water was cloudy and full of tiny plants, algae, and other organic matter. But mussels changed that. They feed by filtering plankton and other particles out of the water. Each tiny mussel filters a quart of water every day, and there are billions of mussels in the lake. Just a few mussels in a jar will clear the water in 30 minutes. The filtering action of these voracious mussels has made Lake Michigan 2 to 3 times clearer than before the mussels invaded. Clearer water looks nice, but sudden shocks to a complex system like Lake Michigan often come at a price. In this case, clearer water lets more sunlight reach the algae growing on the bottom. It also lets light penetrate to deeper areas of the lake bottom, creating more area where Cladophora can grow. The bottom area with enough light for Cladophora is more than twice as large now as before the mussel invasion. Studies by Bootsma and other scientists conclude that this increased light is by far the biggest reason for the explosive growth of Cladophora. In terms of addressing the problem, it's a discouraging finding. We couldn't make the water cloudy again, even if we wanted to. And there's no getting rid of the billions of zebra and quagga mussels in the lake. That leaves the phosphorus part of the equation. Its contribution to Cladophora growth is much smaller, but it is here that there's hope of solving the problem. Scientists believe mussels are concentrating phosphorus in the lake right where Cladophora grows. Phosphorus in the lake is often attached to organic matter like bits of leaves, soil particles, and manure. Before mussels invaded, this material and its attached phosphorus was more or less evenly distributed throughout the whole lake. Concentrations of phosphorus were below target levels. But zebra and quagga mussels effectively filter organic matter out of the whole lake. They absorb the nutrients they need, and they deposit the excess on the lake bed around them. This excess material and the mussel's own waste is rich in phosphorus. Thus, mussels have filtered phosphorus out of the enormous volume of Lake Michigan and concentrated it in narrow ribbons along the western and northeastern shores of the lake. And that's mostly the very same places where Cladophora grows. Phosphorus already in the lake is beyond our control. But more phosphorus enters the lake each year, and that amount can be reduced. We did it 40 years ago. In the 1960s, most phosphorus entering the lake came from so-called point sources, individual pipes that discharged wastewater from industries and sewage treatment plants. Phosphates in laundry detergent added to the problem. These sources were relatively easy to identify and to reduce. The Clean Water Act of 1972 regulated discharges, and Wisconsin banned phosphates in laundry detergent. Phosphorus in the lake declined, and algae died back to normal levels. Today, the largest sources of phosphorus entering Lake Michigan are so-called non-point sources. Unlike individual pipes, these sources are spread out across the landscape itself. Wisconsin's soils have been accumulating phosphorus over many decades. It's a main component of fertilizers and manure applied to croplands, sometimes in excess. And fertilizers used on the lawns of homeowners, parks, and golf courses often contain high levels of phosphorus. So does organic matter like leaves and grass clippings. Much of this material makes its way into Lake Michigan in runoff from stormwater and melted snow. Runoff erodes soils and picks up organic matter from farms, cities, and suburbs. It flows into rivers and streams and delivers phosphorus to the lake, sometimes from far upstream. Thus, the best way to address the Cladophora problem is to reduce stormwater runoff and to keep organic matter on the land. That can be done in many ways. Farmers can contain manure and apply only what's needed at optimal times and locations. Cities can build stormwater retention ponds and require that erosion from construction sites be minimized. Homeowners can install rain barrels, build rain gardens, and use phosphorus-free fertilizer. There's no question the situation is challenging. Cladophora has a powerful ally in zebra and quagga mussels. The increased sunlight they deliver greatly boosts the algae's growth. But that growth can be checked by reducing the phosphorus flowing into the lake. Scientists tell us the key to success is to start now.
If we can push phosphorus down a little bit, we could see fairly noticeable changes in the amount of Cladophora in the lake.
Countering the effects of invasive zebra and quagga mussels will require increased efforts by homeowners, farmers, and state and local government. In return, visitors from near and far can again enjoy the clean beaches, stunning views, and rejuvenating power of Wisconsin's Lake Michigan shores.
You can learn much more about reducing runoff from your County Conservation Department, UW Extension Office, and the Department of Natural Resources. Links to these websites and more can be found at www.seagrant.wisc.edu/algae.